The rain fell softly on the sidewalk outside Thornwood Cafe, each drop tapping against the window like a question no one wanted to answer. Inside, Vivian Ashford sat alone at a small table near the glass. Her navy blue dress was pressed and neat. Her hands trembled slightly as they rested on a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. She was 30 years old, and she had not been on a date in 3 years. Not since the accident that took her ability to walk. The chair across from her sat empty. It had been empty for over an hour now. The man she was supposed to meet had not come. Her phone buzzed against the table. A text message, short and final. "Sorry, I don't think this will work out. Good luck." Vivian stared at the words until they blurred. She understood immediately what had happened. He had come. He had looked through the cafe window. He had seen the wheelchair folded neatly against the wall beside her table, and he had left. She bit her lip hard, willing herself not to cry. Not here. Not in public. She had promised herself she would try again. She had promised herself she was ready to be seen as a woman, not a victim. But the empty chair told a different story. 3 years. 3 years since the crash. 3 years since she woke up in a hospital bed and learned that her legs would never work again. 3 years since she lost not just her mobility, but her career, her confidence, and her belief that she deserved love. She had been an engineer once, a brilliant one. She had designed safety systems for automobiles at Meridian Motors in Detroit. Seat belts, restraints, crash protocols. She had dedicated her life to protecting strangers she would never meet. And then one rainy night, a drunk driver ran a red light at 60 miles per hour. The car she was driving was a Meridian Ascent. The safety system failed exactly the way she had warned it might. The irony haunted her every day. She had quit Meridian 2 years before the accident. She had written detailed reports about flaws in the restraint system. She had warned the executives that under certain crash conditions, the seatbelt mechanism would not lock properly. But Sterling Vance, the vice president of production, had dismissed her concerns. Fixing the problem would cost $20 million and delay the launch by 6 months. He had thanked her for her input and proceeded exactly as planned. Vivian had walked away. She could not be part of a company that valued profit over human lives. 2 years later, that same system failed to protect her. Now she sat in a cafe in Portland, Oregon, 3,000 miles from Detroit, waiting for a man who would never come, because he had seen her wheelchair and decided she was not worth his time. The cafe door opened with a soft chime. A man walked in, holding the hand of a little girl. Both of them were soaked from the rain. Water dripped from their jackets onto the wooden floor. The man was tall, with dark hair and streaks of gray at his temples. His eyes were warm but tired, the kind of tired that belonged to someone who had learned to carry weight without complaint. The girl was perhaps 6 years old, blonde hair plastered to her forehead, a bright yellow raincoat decorated with cartoon bees, light-up sneakers that flickered pink and purple with each step. They looked around the crowded cafe. Every table was occupied, except for the empty chair across from Vivian. The man hesitated, then he approached her table with an apologetic expression. "Excuse me," he said. "I know this is awkward, but the cafe is completely full and my daughter is freezing. Would you mind if we sat here for a few minutes, just until the rain lets up?" Vivian looked up at him. His eyes held no pity, no judgment, just genuine concern for the shivering child beside him. She nodded slowly. "Of course. Please sit down." "Thank you." He helped his daughter into the chair first, then sat down himself. He set a small purple backpack decorated with unicorn stickers on the floor and ran a hand through his damp hair. "I really appreciate this. I'm Callum Brennan, and this is Ren." The little girl did not take her eyes off Vivian. She tilted her head slightly, studying her with the unfiltered curiosity that only children possess. "You were crying," Ren said. Not a question, a statement. Callum's face flushed. Ren, that's not... It's okay, Vivian said, surprising herself. Something about the child's honesty felt like fresh air after years of people avoiding her gaze. Yes, I was a little sad. Why? Vivian hesitated. Someone promised to meet me here, but they didn't come. Ren's eyes widened with indignation. That's mean. Daddy always keeps his promises. She looked at her father for confirmation. Right, Daddy? Callum smiled softly. I try my best, sweetheart. A server appeared and Callum ordered 2 hot chocolates. When she left, Ren's attention returned to Vivian. Her gaze drifted to the wheelchair folded against the wall. Is that yours, Wainan? She asked. It looks like a bicycle, but with bigger wheels. Yes, it's mine. I use it to get around because my legs don't work anymore. Why don't they work? I was in a car accident 3 years ago. Ren nodded solemnly, as if this made perfect sense. Then she said, My mommy died. Daddy says she's in heaven now, watching over us. The silence that followed was raw and honest. The kind of moment that could only happen between strangers who had nothing left to hide. Vivian felt her throat tighten. She glanced at Callum. His jaw was set, but his eyes glistened. I'm so sorry, Vivian said softly. It's okay, Ren continued. Daddy says people don't disappear. They just go somewhere else. She paused, her small face serious. Do you think Mommy can see me even when it's raining? Vivian felt tears prick her eyes. I think if someone loves you, they can always see you, no matter what. Ren smiled, a bright, trusting smile that held no shadows. I think so too. The hot chocolates arrived. Ren took a sip and emerged with a foam mustache on her upper lip. Vivian laughed. It was small and broken, but real. You have a mustache, Vivian said, pointing. Ren giggled and licked it off. For a moment, the weight of everything lifted. They talked for another 20 minutes. Small things. The weather. Portland. Callum mentioned that he owned the auto repair shop across the street, Brennan Auto Repair. He had moved here 3 years ago after his wife passed. She had a congenital heart condition, he explained quietly, while Ren colored on a napkin with a crayon from her backpack. The doctor said she could live a normal life with medication, and she did for a while. Then one morning, she just didn't wake up. I'm sorry, Vivian whispered. It's just me and Ren now. We're figuring it out as we go. The rain began to ease. Callum glanced out the window. We should probably get going, he said, standing. Thank you for letting us share your table. Ren jumped down from her chair, but before following her father, she reached into her pocket and pressed something into Vivian's hand, a piece of candy wrapped in bright foil. Daddy says when someone's sad, you give them candy so they smile, Ren said earnestly. Don't be sad anymore, okay? Vivian looked down at the candy, then at the little girl with her hopeful eyes and her light-up shoes. And she cried, not from sadness, but because for the first time in 3 years, someone had seen her, not as a wheelchair, not as a tragedy, just as a person who needed comfort. Thank you, Vivian managed. I won't be sad anymore. Callum and Ren walked out into the evening. Through the window, Vivian watched them cross the street to the auto repair shop. Ren skipped beside her father, holding his hand, and Callum looked down at her with such clear love that it made Vivian's chest ache. The empty chair was still there, but it didn't feel as empty anymore. That night in her small apartment, Vivian opened her laptop. She typed Brennan Auto Repair Portland into the search bar. A local news article appeared. She clicked on it. Callum Brennan, former aerospace engineer, left his career to open an auto repair shop following the death of his wife. Before relocating to Portland, Brennan worked as a consultant for several major automotive companies, including Meridian Motors. Vivian stopped breathing. Meridian Motors, the company that had built the car that destroyed her legs. Her hands trembled as she stared at the screen. This could not be a coincidence. Vivian returned to Thornwood Cafe the next day, and the day after that. She told herself it was just for the coffee, but her eyes kept drifting to the auto repair shop across the street. On the third day, Callum saw her through the window. He said something to a coworker, wiped his hands on a rag, and crossed the street. "You're here again," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "The coffee is good." He smiled. "Can I buy you another cup?" They talked for an hour, about nothing important, about everything important. Callum mentioned that before becoming a mechanic, he had been an aerospace engineer in Seattle. He had designed environmental control systems for commercial aircraft. "Why did you leave?" Vivian asked. "After Margot died, I couldn't focus. The work required precision, and my mind was somewhere else. I had Ren to take care of, and the hours were impossible. So I came back here and started working with my hands instead." "Do you miss it?" "Sometimes. I miss the intellectual challenge, but I don't regret the choice. Ren needed me more than I needed that career." Vivian understood. She understood more than she could say. "What about you?" Callum asked. "What did you do before?" "I was an engineer too. I designed safety systems for cars." Something flickered in Callum's eyes. "Where?" "Meridian Motors, in Detroit." The silence stretched between them. Callum's face went pale. "You know Meridian?" Vivian asked carefully. He swallowed hard. "I used to consult for them, about 5 years ago." The truth came out slowly, like water seeping through cracks. Over the following weeks, as their friendship deepened, Vivian and Callum shared pieces of their past. Coffee dates became dinners. Ren started calling her Miss Vivian and showing her drawings from school. One evening, Callum invited Vivian to his apartment for dinner. "Just spaghetti," he said, but Ren had been begging for days. The apartment was small but warm. Drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys were stacked neatly in a basket. On the shelf beside the television, Vivian saw a photograph. A woman with dark hair and a kind smile held a newborn baby wrapped in a pink blanket. "That's Margot," Callum said quietly. "Ren was 3 when she passed. She doesn't remember much, just what I've told her." "She was beautiful," Vivian said. "She was stubborn and funny and terrible at directions." He smiled at the memory. "She got us lost every time we went anywhere new." After dinner, Ren sat beside Vivian on the couch, arranging her smooth stones in order of size. "Miss Vivian," Ren said seriously, "I think broken people can find each other, like puzzle pieces. Maybe one piece is broken here and another piece is broken there, but they fit together anyway." Vivian stared at the 6-year-old. "You think so?" "Uh-huh. Daddy is a broken piece. You're a broken piece, too. But maybe you're broken in different places, so you can help each other." Wisdom that adults spend lifetimes searching for, spoken by a child who had lost her mother at 3 years old. But the past has a way of catching up. One night, after Ren fell asleep, Callum sat alone and opened files he had not touched in years. Old reports from his consulting work, emails, project documentation. He searched for anything related to the Meridian ascent. What he found made his blood run cold. His own report, his own words. He had identified potential failure points in the restraint system. He had recommended additional testing. He had warned them that rushing to market was dangerous. His signature was on the document. And at the bottom, a note from Sterling Vance. Recommendations reviewed. Proceeding as scheduled. They had ignored him. Just like they had ignored Vivian. Callum searched further. Meridian ascent accidents. 47 serious accidents. 12 deaths, all linked to the same restraint system failure. Vivian was one of 47. His hands shook as he stared at the screen. He had been part of the system that took her legs. How could he look at her now? How could he touch her hand, make her laugh, let his daughter love her, knowing what he knew? That night after Wren was asleep, Callum sat alone in the dark living room. He held a photograph of Margot, her smile, her kind eyes. "I found someone," he whispered to the photograph. "Someone good, someone who makes Wren laugh. And I can't be with her because of what I failed to stop." The tears came slowly at first, then all at once. He cried for Vivian, who had lost her legs because of a system he had helped review. He cried for the 12 people who had died. He cried for all the years he had spent believing he had done enough. He did not hear Wren's door open. He did not see her small figure standing in the hallway, watching her father break. But Wren saw everything, and she understood in the way that children sometimes understand things adults cannot explain. Daddy was sad, and Miss Vivian was the only one who could fix it. The change was subtle at first. A canceled dinner because Wren wasn't feeling well. Texts that went unanswered for hours. Conversations that felt stilted and distant. Vivian did not understand. Everything had been going so well. She went to the auto repair shop, called his name across the street. Callum came out, but his eyes would not meet hers. "I think we should stop," he said. "Stop what?" "This. Seeing each other. I don't think it's a good idea." "Why? What did I do?" "Nothing. You didn't do anything. I just can't." "That's not good enough, Callum. You don't get to let me into your life and then shut me out without telling me why." But he only shook his head, his jaw tight. There was something in his eyes she had not seen before. Guilt. Deep, consuming guilt. "I'm sorry," he said. Then he walked away. Vivian stood alone on the sidewalk, tears streaming down her face. Again. Abandoned again. That night, while Callum dozed on the couch, Wren took a piece of paper and a crayon from her art supplies. She sat at the kitchen table and wrote slowly, carefully, forming each letter the way her teacher had shown her. "Dear Miss Vivian, Daddy is very sad. He cries when he thinks I'm asleep. I don't know why Daddy won't see you anymore. But I miss you, and I think Daddy misses you too. Please don't forget us. Daddy's a good person. He's just scared. I was scared when Mommy died too. But Daddy said being scared is okay, as long as you don't run away forever. I think Daddy's running away. Can you help him stop? Love, Wren P.S. I drew a sun because you like to smile." She folded the letter carefully, put it in an envelope, and wrote Miss Vivian on the front. Then she put on her yellow raincoat, slipped into her light-up shoes, and quietly walked out the front door. She remembered the way to the cafe. Sometimes grown-ups needed children to show them the way home. The next morning, Vivian arrived at Thornwood Cafe as usual. The barista handed her a cup of coffee and a small envelope. "A little girl left this for you early this morning," she said. "Said it was for the lady in the wheelchair by the window." Vivian's heart stopped. She opened the envelope with trembling hands and read the letter inside. Once, twice, 3 times. "Daddy's a good person. He's just scared. I think Daddy's running away. Can you help him stop?" Tears blurred her vision. She understood now. Callum wasn't pushing her away because he didn't care. He was running because he cared too much. She picked up her phone. "I need to see you," she said when he answered. "Right now, at the cafe. And you owe me a real explanation." A long pause. "Okay." 20 minutes later, Callum sat across from her at the same table where they had first met. Vivian placed the letter on the table between them. "Wren wrote to me," she said. Callum looked at his daughter's handwriting, and his face crumpled. "She snuck out? She walked all the way here alone? Children know more than we think. Now tell me, what are you running from?" He told her everything. About the old files. The report he had written 5 years ago. The 47 accidents. The 12 deaths. Sterling Vance, still sitting in his office, denying responsibility. "You're one of 47 people, Vivian," he said, his voice breaking. "You lost your legs because of a system I helped review. I warned them, but I didn't fight hard enough. I took my consulting fee and walked away. And you think that makes you responsible for my accident? I was part of the system that failed you. So was I." Vivian's voice was steady now. "I wrote reports too. I warned them too. I also walked away instead of fighting harder. Does that make me responsible for my own accident?" Callum looked up. "No, of course not." "Then why do you think you are?" He had no answer. "The person responsible is Sterling Vance." Vivian continued. "The executives who chose profit over human lives. Not you, not me. We tried. We did what we could." She reached across the table and took his hands. "I've spent 3 years hating the drunk driver, hating Meridian, hating my own body. And you know what? It didn't help. It didn't bring back my legs. I'm tired of hating, Callum. I want to start loving again, and I want to start with you." Tears streamed down his face. "You forgive me?" "There's nothing to forgive. But if you need to hear it, then yes. I forgive you. I forgive the system. I forgive myself. And now I need you to forgive yourself." In the weeks that followed, Vivian and Callum made a decision. They could not change the past, but they could fight for the future. Together, they compiled their reports, the warnings they had written years ago, the documentation of Sterling Vance dismissing their concerns. They contacted the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They reached out to investigative journalists. They found a lawyer who specialized in corporate whistleblower cases. 3 months later, Vivian received an invitation she never expected. The NHTSA was holding a public hearing on automotive safety standards. Meridian Motors executives would be required to testify, and Vivian had been asked to present her original engineering reports as evidence. The hearing room in Washington, D.C. was packed with journalists, lawyers, and families of accident victims. 47 accidents, 12 deaths, and finally someone was listening. Vivian sat at the witness table, her wheelchair positioned beside the microphone. Callum sat in the front row, Ren beside him, both watching with quiet pride. Sterling Vance sat across the room with Meridian's legal team. His silver hair was perfectly combed. His suit cost more than most people's monthly salary. He looked like a man who had never been told no, until today. When it was Vivian's turn to speak, she did not tremble. "5 years ago, I wrote this report." She held up the document. "I identified a critical flaw in the restraint system that could cause failure under specific crash conditions. I recommended delaying production until the issue was resolved." She looked directly at Sterling Vance. "My recommendation was rejected. The vehicle went to market, and 3 years ago I was in one of those vehicles when a drunk driver hit me. The restraint system failed exactly as I had predicted. I lost the use of my legs." The room was silent. "I am not here for revenge," Vivian continued. "I am here because 47 families deserve answers. 12 families lost someone forever. And the man who made the decision to ignore our warnings is sitting in this room." Sterling Vance's face had gone white. The committee chairman turned to him. "Mr. Vance, we have obtained internal emails showing that you personally dismissed multiple engineering reports warning of this exact failure mode." He paused. "The Department of Justice has informed us that you are now under criminal investigation for negligent homicide." The room erupted. Journalists shouted questions. Cameras flashed. And Sterling Vance, the man who had valued profit over human lives, sat frozen as his world collapsed around him. Vivian felt Callum's hand on her shoulder. She looked up at him, then at Ren, who was giving her a thumbs up. Justice. After 5 years, justice. The news coverage was relentless. Meridian Motors ordered to recall 1.2 million vehicles. VP Sterling Vance resigns amid criminal investigation. $800 million class action lawsuit filed. Vivian and Callum watched the broadcast together, hands intertwined. "We did it," she whispered. "You did it," he replied. "I just walked beside you." She turned to look at him. "That's all I ever needed." But their work together did not end there. Combining Callum's aerospace expertise with Vivian's safety engineering background, they developed a revolutionary wheelchair docking system for automobiles. Safer, more accessible, more dignified. A nonprofit organization offered to partner with them. Their first prototype was a modified van that allowed wheelchair users to drive independently. When they tested it successfully for the first time, Ren cheered from the passenger seat. "You did it! You and Miss Vivian!" They were invited to present at a national accessibility technology conference. Vivian stood before the crowd. "I used to design safety systems. Then one day a safety system failed to protect me. I thought my life was over, but I learned something important. We are not defined by what we lose. We are defined by what we choose to build from the wreckage." The audience gave her a standing ovation. Callum watched from the wings, tears in his eyes. 1 year later, they returned to Thornwood Cafe. The same table by the window, the same chairs, the same soft rain tapping against the glass. Ren sat across from them, sipping hot chocolate. Vivian carried a folder with the logo of a major automotive manufacturer. Inside was a contract. They wanted to license her wheelchair docking design for 5 years. "This means we did it," Vivian said. "We're going to help thousands of people." Callum set down the folder. He took Vivian's hands in his expression suddenly serious. "I need to say something. This past year has been the best year since Margot died. Not just because of the work. Because of you." He slid out of his chair and knelt beside her wheelchair. "A year ago, you sat at this table alone. The chair across from you was empty, and I walked in just to get out of the rain." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "I didn't know I was walking into the life of the woman I would love. I didn't know my daughter would find another mother." He opened the box. A simple ring, elegant and beautiful. "Vivian Ashford, will you become part of our family?" Ren bounced in her seat. "Say yes. Say yes. I've been practicing calling you Mom all week. Watch, Mom. Mom, see?" Vivian laughed through her tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes. Of course. Yes." 1 year after the wedding, Thornwood Cafe, the same table by the window. Vivian, Callum, and Ren, now 8 years old, sat together. On the table was a certificate of recognition from the National Accessibility Conference. Ren placed a new drawing in the center of the table. 4 figures, a man, a woman in a wheelchair, a girl with yellow shoes, and above them all, an angel with dark hair and a kind smile. "This is our family," Ren explained. "That's Mommy Margot up there. She's still watching us." Outside, the rain began to fall softly. "It's raining again," Vivian said. "Like the first time." "I remember everything about that night," Callum replied. "You were sitting alone. Your coffee was cold, and you looked like you had given up on the world." "I had." "And then Ren gave you a piece of candy." Vivian smiled. "And everything changed." Ren wiped foam from her lip with the back of her hand. "Mom, you always notice." Mom. The words still made Vivian's heart swell. Callum squeezed her hand. "You know what I think about sometimes? That night I almost didn't come in. The rain was letting up. But Ren saw the empty chair through the window, and she said, 'Daddy, there's a sad lady in there. Maybe we can make her happy.'" Vivian looked at Ren. "You said that?" Ren shrugged, suddenly shy. "You look like you needed friends." "I did," Vivian whispered. "I needed exactly what you gave me." Outside, the rain continued to fall. But inside Thornwood Cafe, there was only warmth. Vivian looked at the man she loved, at the daughter who had chosen her, at the life she had built from the wreckage of everything she thought she had lost. 3 years ago, she had sat at this table waiting for someone who never came. She had believed she was unworthy of love. She had been wrong. The accident had taken her legs, but it had also led her here, to this cafe, to this table, to this family. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us exactly where we need to be. Sometimes broken pieces find each other, and sometimes an empty chair is just waiting for the right person to fill it. Vivian Ashford had spent 3 years learning to survive. Now finally she was learning to live.